happening and things that we're doing just in time for everyone to say, all right, let's go back in.
Yeah, I'm still sequestering for a while to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Same here.
So I think I'll be remote for a little while. So I'm glad this is still going. Keep it up.
Mhm. Well, we're planning on continuing it going for kind of, I think we want to keep it going somewhat indefinitely because the conversations that we're having here.
The ability to attend is so great. It makes it
Yeah.
much more likely to have a bigger group, I think.
Yeah, I've loved the previous sessions, and I think having them on YouTube is helpful too, so I can pop in.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the amount of people that are actually watching them on YouTube.
Yeah, this is a good time. So happy about it.
All right. So I'm gonna go. So I got the live feed going. So now we're live to the world out there. So you can go and say hello world. And my next step is I'm going to share with you guys the slides that we're operating on today. All right, so can everyone see those?
Yep.
Oh, it's supposed to be, let me quickly change my share settings again. There we go. Now I can play with the live feed while everything else is happening. All right, so I would like to, we've got a couple more, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes because I think people are coming in. We usually kind of start a little bit later, but thank you everyone for coming. And we have people watching the live feed. Excellent. And people are already liking it. So if you do want to share the live feed, I'm going to give you a link to that. I'll put that in the chat right now. Here's the live feed. And so what are you guys seeing right now on the screen? Are you seeing me go through the live feed things?
Yes.
Okay, I am not. Okay, I'm telling it to share something else. This started happening yesterday. So here it is, share. You see that?
Those are your slides.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now is it back to the live feed though?
Now live feed.
That's not how that share is supposed to work. Okay.
Dang it.
But now is it back to the slides?
Back
right?
to the slides. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to think, but okay. Well, here we are. I'd like to welcome everyone to CleanStart's ToDos with Arianne Ortegaray from Grid Alternatives. I'm really excited about this one because a lot of times in the clean tech world, we talk about, everyone needs to do this and everyone needs to adopt clean tech. But there's a huge problem that not everyone can just afford to go buy a Tesla. And I say that as someone whose dad has purchased 4 Teslas in his life. And he's very much aware of it too. And so Grid Alternatives, you're going to hear about them, but they're doing some really great work in this area. So let's go on to the next slide. So we're just some cordial things, remember to raise your hand, use the chat. I'm going to go back to the chat right now and I'm going to share these documents with you so that you can follow along with them.
Are we on record, Thomas?
We are starting to record. Oops, I hit the stop share. Let me do that again. We are live. And we should be recording to cloud and
there we go.
Chat. And here is our documents that we're looking at today, so you can follow along. And, all right, so
Amber
first,
Amber found another hat for today.
There
That's
you
good.
go. First, I want to say happy Juneteenth to everyone. I'll be honest, I learned about this, I think this year. I might have heard about it before, but it is recognized in Texas as the day that Black slaves were liberated in Texas. It's not the day of the Emancipation Proclamation. It is the day the final slaves were liberated after the Civil War. Also, I'm going to check. It's also one of a Clean Tech supporter's birthday today. So Bill from from Pacific Fleet Charging, happy birthday. But I also want to say, go out there, support change, support GSUL, the young professionals. CleanStart has a statement on the recent events, and there's a lot of diversity venture groups in Sacramento, and they support diverse businesses, but also people like Mariah Lipton-Son, who is one of the founders of them. They help all the entrepreneurs and help everyone in the community, not just one group, but they want to make sure that they focus on an underserved community. So I suggest you check out Tech Funding Equity, Black Star Fund, and Diverse City Ventures. All right, I want to recognize CleanStart sponsors, Blue Tech Valley, Sac State, SMUD, and Weintraub Tobin. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. And we're really grateful for their support. I have some quick announcements to make. CleanStart has 2 to-dos next week that are scheduled. Meg Arnold, the interim CEO of Valley Ventures. I also want to give a shout out to the future upcoming CEO, Evan Schmidt. I first met her working on electric vehicles almost a decade ago. So she's done some great work in the clean tech space. Also, Judy Notley of the Air Resources Board. She has a wealth of knowledge. If you're curious about cap and trade or anything that California Air Resources Board is doing, she is a great resource. Also, if you're a clean tech company and you're looking for an upcoming accelerator, Valley Ventures, run by Blue Tech Valley, has an accelerator coming up. You can apply through the link here. Weintraub Tobin has some COVID support resources, and you can always check on the startup community at startupsac.org. Now, 3 things that are kind of new on this that you see is, one, I discovered SMUD has these amazing videos on how you can bring energy efficiency to your business. So this links to all these videos about how you can make your business embrace clean tech, even if you're not a clean tech business. Also, Sacramento State Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship puts on a bunch of great series that we love to promote. They have their Lean Innovators series, which is a 10-week course about from zero to sales, starting June 23rd. And one that we're especially excited about with open grants, Sadel Turbosky, who's been on here before, opengrants.io is putting on a class, Grants for Startups. So there's a lot of funding in the clean tech space through grants that are a lot more forgiving than a VC investor. And you know what don't you have to do with grant money? Pay it back. It's not free money because you still have to do something, but it is a very good resource for building your business. Also, if you like what you're doing, please support the work we're doing by buying us coffee. Help me get up and do these every morning. Please support CleanStart. It's kind of a tough time for funding right now, so we're trying to look for support wherever we can kind of get it. Also, if you want to make sure you're on top of these, stay connected with us socially. And also, we're not the only ones with social media. Grid Alternatives has social media and a mail list that I really suggest you sign up for because of the really cool work that they're doing, and you're going to hear more about it. So I really want to talk about it because it's just so cool. But I'm going to leave that for Ari. All right, without further ado, I would like to welcome Arianne Ortegaray, Corporate and Community Relations Officer of Grid Alternatives. And please take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you, Thomas and Gary, for having me on. I've been such a fan of the to-dos and appreciate just being able to share about Grid. We do have really exciting work, so I'm glad you're just as excited about it, and really open to anyone asking questions as I go through. I know we have a Q&A at the end, but if anything is just burning and you want to ask it, feel free as we go through slides. So feel free to go on to the next. So Grid is a nonprofit. We're a national nonprofit, but Grid North Valley is the region that covers Sacramento all the way up to the Oregon border and as far south as San Joaquin County. And our mission is to make renewable energy technology and job training accessible to underserved communities. And we really like to focus on those integrated solutions of how do we expand access by providing jobs and savings and making sure that the benefits of clean tech are enjoyed by those who are most impacted by climate change. Next. Next. Oh, there. At Grid, we believe that a successful, just transition to clean energy must include everyone. And so equity is the underlying core piece of our mission and something that we drive through all of our programs to make sure we're going out and making sure we incorporate all different perspectives and views and walks of life from the community so that we do have a well-rounded approach to expanding access. Next slide. So how do we hold ourselves accountable to making sure that we live that mission is our triple bottom line. So instead of focusing on profits, what we hold ourselves accountable to is people, planet, and employment. And what that really means is with people, we really hope to make sure we spread savings and education and opportunities to different people in the communities that we work with, focusing on lower income, elderly, veterans, women, especially in solar, and just trying to spread that access. The planet component is that all of our projects have greenhouse gas emissions reductions that we bring through solar, but also now through different technologies that I'll go into further. But that is an important piece with climate change being something that is at our doorstep. It's something we needed to get controlled yesterday. So really trying to be urgent about the way we approach climate change. And the last piece is employment. And so we have different workforce development job training programs that incorporate with the solar installs that I'll dive into. And trying to get jobs, there's really great opportunity in the green economy that's just growing and demand is just growing. And we want to make sure that the people who get those jobs that get to have a voice and loop all of these three things together to maximize the solutions that are being made. So we like to consider ourselves solutions multipliers. By getting $1 in, we turn it into 5 with all the different things that it accomplishes. Next slide. No, oh, there we go. It's a little delayed. Okay, perfect. So before diving into all of our programs, just kind of wanted to explore why we're doing this and why it's so important for everyone in the clean tech space to be aware of and to consider as you develop new technologies and build your teams and think about who the end user is going to be and the benefits that are going to come from it, because clean energy does have an access problem. Low-income communities and communities of color are disproportionately impacted by pollution and climate change. It's often these communities that live by a freeway and live in bad air quality neighborhoods or are by industry. There's so many different factors that influence it, water, and the list could go on. And so these are things that need to be at the forefront of our minds as we start to develop new solutions and think about how the future is going to look with things like the Green New Deal and other legislations moving forward in our local city, but all the way up to the federal level. Low-income households spend much larger percentages of their income on energy bills. It's up to 3 times more, and those people are usually disproportionately Latinx or African American. And this energy burden is heavy. It's something where families might not turn on the air on a heat wave day, and that just carries into the rest of their lives. The stress is a health concern that is played into and compounded by the health impacts that climate change and pollution really add to as well. Now we see with COVID-19, and Imani, I see you added that in too, it's that much more of a burden because people are home now, much more than they were before. And these energy bills are getting higher, and summer's just around the corner, and there's no way of combating this. I think in these communities, clean energy like solar aren't the first thought because you think of the big price tag associated. And so it seems out of reach. It seems like something that's just for the affluent. And we want to change that and really make sure that it is accessible and something that people can take advantage of, because those are the communities we need to invest these technologies in, so we lighten those burdens. And just in the last point of access, these low-income families are being underserved by the growing solar industry. There's 22 million single-family homes that have the potential for savings and for properly utilizing solar, as well as 6 million units of multifamily affordable housing. And so the potential is there. There's great vast numbers that could benefit from this technology, but it's just hasn't made it to them yet. And so we're hoping to bridge that gap through our programming. Next slide, please. And what clean energy can do. So those are some of the issues, those are some of the access problems, but there lies so much potential in creating access and how that can address not just climate change, but economic and social inequality at the same time. And again, it's that integration of solutions. We have to all come together and fight all the fights together in order to make real progress and change. By introducing these technologies, especially from just what we've seen in our programming, you reduce the energy cost burden for these families and the affordable housing owners too, which translates to renters who traditionally don't get to participate in the clean energy benefits. It creates livable wage jobs with low barriers to entry and creates growth opportunities. This really is important in creating generational wealth for these community members too. It's the opportunity not just for a job, but for a career that can grow and take you into different directions, that has benefits and a decent pay. And that's something that impacts entire families. And that's something really important that we hope to carry on to be able to help them participate in that building of wealth. And then the last point is just accelerating the clean energy transition by expanding the access and opening the floodgates of who can participate. We only move ourselves closer to transition in a just way. And if we're going to get there, if we're going to make these really big climate change impacts, we need to have everybody on board or it's not going to work. Next slide, please. All right, so this one's, it'll go one by one. So there's going to be 4 different programs that I'll emphasize of GRID's work. And so to start, it's our Energy for All program. And program covers single family solar installations, multifamily, and community solar. And to focus just in the Sacramento region of our office and the work that we do, for our single family program, this is a program that provides solar installations for low-income community members on their home costs to them. And it's something where we have the workforce integrate with that. Whoever's receiving solar will then have someone from their community on the roof learning how to install and all the facets of that. And we also pair that with energy efficiency education. And so it's something where they will then learn not only just to have the savings, but how to use the energy more efficiently and what that means, and even just environmental justice and climate change education too. And really giving them those tools to take to their community. And we've seen a lot of spread in the neighborhoods that we go into. We have, I think right now, about a 70% referral rate. So they are taking these tools and this education and telling their neighbor and telling their family member. And it's been really nice to see that spread. And then in the multifamily side, we're working with affordable housing developers to make sure that renters can also experience savings on their utility bills and that they have access to the clean energy, as well as nonprofits. That's another component of our multifamily program. We're working with the Sacramento Food Bank to do an install on their system, on their building later this year, because nonprofits are providing all of these services to the community, and this is a way to cut their operational costs so that their services that they provide can go further. And I know with COVID right now, the food bank demand went up 3x. And so that's something where there's a hope for savings and something they can expect on the later this year. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And so clean mobility is the next factor of our programming that is something that we're expanding from the Energy for All program. So our core has always been based in solar. That's something that we started back in 2004 in the Bay Area of our headquarters, and have been working on these programs at the state level advocating for low-income solar policy. And now we're looking at how we can pair EV or PV with EV with electric vehicles, because transportation is just coming right after utility bills and rent. It's a really high cost for these families having to pay for gas, and even just accessing a reliable vehicle is really important. The grid alternatives as a whole is working at the state level to work on all these different incentives. There's a mass of them. There's a lot of different incentives, but it's hard for someone that's just looking to get an EV to know how to access these all, what the applications are like. So we've created something we call the one-stop shop, and it's somewhere people can go and type in their information, fill out their eligibility, and they get a list of all of the different incentives that they're applicable for. And we have someone go through with them and walk them through the process. And at a more local level, we're working with the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District on their Clean Cars for All incentive program, which helps to provide a lower income person with the opportunity to retire their older vehicle that would emit a lot of greenhouse gas emissions because it is older and usually not as reliable, not as functional, and turn that into an incentive of up to $9,500 for either a new or used electric vehicle, or just have that go towards credit for public transportation and trying to utilize other forms of transportation as well. And so that's a program that's launching, I believe, later next month, but it's different ways that we're looking at to provide this access to clean mobility for the community that also helps to lower tailpipe emissions, which goes to immediate air quality impacts in the local area. And then jumping to our workforce development program, this is something we incorporate it into the Energy for All, we incorporate it into the clean mobility. And we have our main installation basics training program. It's a 5-week program where not only you come in, you don't even know how to hold a power tool, and you can walk out the other end fully knowing the ins and outs of how to install solar. You have the actual experience of getting on someone's roof and learning the different pieces and how it works and what hiccups might come up in a real life situation. And it's also a meaningful training experience because you're on a home in your community. This is an actual person that's benefiting. Sorry? Oh. And right now, because of COVID and not being able to do a lot of in-person work, we've transitioned to an online model. And so we just launched June 1st and had a full cohort within 3 hours of trainees that are interested in solar, interested in learning about the work. And it's something that we are looking to expand and grow on. It started with solar, but now we're looking at how to incorporate electrical vehicle charger infrastructure training, and battery storage training is a really important piece too. And just taking new modules so people can come in and learn how to do those different pieces. And at the end of our program, we do professional development. So we'll do soft skills, conflict resolution, resume building, mock interviews, things like that that can be barriers for someone who might not have a strong background but is looking to get into a new industry. And as I think Amani had mentioned earlier, we still have a lot of issues that are from our past of, we have Juneteenth, we're celebrating the end of enslavement. However, now we have our criminal justice system that is taken on a new face of oppression. And it's a very real thing that people experience day to day. And we're working with the California Office of Business and Economic Development for a program that focuses on reentry and working with different community members that may have a criminal background, and especially those who've been impacted by the war on drugs. That's something that's really important to us, that we provide this opportunity that is a low barrier to entry, that they can not be blocked from a job, because it's oftentimes these communities that are blocked from being able to find a career afterwards. You're then held back, and there's this barrier. And so being able to bring them in, bring that experience, introduce them to employers. We have an advisory board of local employers, and get them going and started on a new career is a really exciting piece to take off. And so it's really front to back end experience, from the family getting the solar to the person getting a career to walk away from, and having those long-term impacts. And I know I'm going a little over, so I'll just jump into climate resilience really quickly. It's a program that is newer for us. We really jumped into action at the end, after the campfire in 2018, because we have our office in Chico, and it's something that we felt really closely. We had to close our office right after the fire because there was too much smoke, and people's families directly impacted. And so it's something that we wanted to get together with the community. We worked with different community organizations. Collaboration is really important for us, and being able to uplift each other's work. And so we worked with Habitat for Humanity and CHIP in that area to help them to provide solar for community members who no longer had access to affordable housing, because the town of Paradise was very affordable, and it's one of the last naturally affordable communities in Northern California. And so solar was a way to help people reduce their utility bills and adjust to their newer location. But we're also helping people who are currently rebuilding their homes to plan for solar and incorporate that, because solar is now mandatory as of this year, and that makes it a little tricky and more expensive for people who are rebuilding. So that's a way that we can come in and support them. And the other piece of that is the battery storage, which is something newer for us to delve into, but such an important pair to solar, because it takes the energy that much further, and also allows people to manage with the peak costs that we're seeing with utility bills. Especially in the fire-prone areas around there, there's a lot of public safety power shutoffs that they're seeing, and they can be without power for days. I don't know about you, but I can't imagine being without power for that long. That's a really tough thing to deal with, and especially for elderly folks as well that might be on medical equipment, people whose medicines have to be in the fridge. If your week's worth of food in the fridge goes bad and you can't afford to buy another week's worth, things like that are very real. And so trying to give them access to at least the battery storage to power for the essentials, and looking to take that model and expand it to other disaster prone areas. Next slide. So just some numbers to put to these different programs I've been telling you about. This work is making a difference. We've served, just in our North Valley region area, more than 1,417 single family households, as well as 227 multifamily households. And this is just for our region. So looking at grid as a whole, I was comparing the numbers, it's about 10 times this when you look at grid overall. Same thing with the immediate and long-term savings. We've saved families collectively over $43 million in what they can expect to save over the 25-year lifetime of their systems. And now with added technology, those savings can go even further. And for the greenhouse gas component, these installations have provided 85,500 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. And so looking at grid as a whole, we've saved over 1 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. And so these little pieces, one home at a time, it does make a difference when you put them all together. Little pieces do add up, but we are just one component of this overall effort to work on the climate change effort. So we definitely want to work with others, and that's something that we're actively trying to reach out and get together with different community organizations. And the more that we can do that, we hope to grow those numbers and grow the impact. Next slide. So how can you get involved with grid? There's a lot of different ways that we love to bring people in and get different ideas incorporated. We have our grid membership program. Want to shout out to Thomas as being a member. We appreciate that, and it's something we think about as, you know, putting your time and or money where your values are. And so if the programs we talked about, if the mission that we're working on, it feels aligning and something that you want to be a part of and support, and you know, we encourage you to become a member and get some swag too. But really, it's just becoming part of the work that we're doing and hearing a little bit more, getting a little more insight, and helping to make it sustainable. Volunteerism is another really big way of working with us. We were built on volunteerism. Our workforce program started as our volunteer program that people would come and take advantage of and learn to turn into a career. We love having people come out on the installs and teaching them what it really looks like to install solar and having them meet the families that they're installing solar for. That's an important part of our installs. Is every install we make, we share a meal with the family and get to know each other, because it's important to get to know the people you're in community with. That's how you really build the value for each other. Right now we have a hold on our in-person volunteerism because of COVID and trying to have proper shelter in place and safety regulations, but we still encourage people to sign up and get those notifications. So as soon as we open up those spots for volunteering, feel free to come out and get an experience that's a little new and different. We have corporate and community partnership opportunities. So all different types of ways for people to come out to get to know how we can team up and work together to make new projects and kind of think out of the box and innovatively in the community. And lastly, we are looking for board members right now. We're having 2 of our board members retire this year and looking to grow the board as well. We love some fresh ideas and some who are working on new innovative technologies and approaches to spreading clean energy access. And again, if the mission sounds exciting to you, if the programs we're working on seem to be something you would want to be a part of and see how we can expand it in our community, that's something that we're really looking to have people bring their strategy for. There's so much going on in Sacramento right now with the Sacramento Climate Action Plan and now the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change releasing their year 1 project recommendations. We feel like there's such a fit for inclusive economic development and putting emphasis on the green economy, and we're happy to join with others to be a part of it. I think that should be it for the slides, just to-dos, I think.
Well, you have one enthusiastic volunteer for your board is Imani, who also wants to get a cool t-shirt. So tell us how to get a cool t-shirt.
Well, we give away our cool t-shirts usually when you volunteer. That's the best way to do it. I didn't remember to call it out in the slides, but we have different colored shirts for roles. So the green shirts are usually homeowners, the white shirts are volunteers, and the blue shirts are staff. So if you want to get that white grid shirt, feel free to sign up and come out on an install. We love meeting new people in the community, for sure.
Sounds like the color coding on Star Trek. And have your installations just gone to 0 in this COVID time, or have you been able to keep some going?
No, it's actually, we, at the very beginning of shelter in place, we took a pause, read up on everything, made sure we brought in some new safety policies, but we were deemed essential pretty early on. And so we've been installing, I want to say 3 to 4 times a week. So
Wow.
it just, we don't have volunteers out, which is the bummer because that's the fun part of it. But we pretty much just broke it into pairs that are out on installs. And so if anyone came down with anything, they would only be accountable to their counterpart. So only 2 people on an install at a time and keeping their social distance. So doing the best we can to still be out there helping people save on their bills, but keeping our staff safe and doing what we can in this time.
Well, that's really good news that some momentum has continued forward on the actual installs. I'm glad to know that you're designated an essential business. So that's fantastic. Other questions from people who've been listening in? not everybody has their mic on.
Very complete presentation, I'd say, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry if I went over.
Yeah, I have kind of a question. So you guys are looking at, I know, have been looking at charging, and you have a program with their resources board going forward with on charging. Are you guys also looking at getting vehicles into the hands of the underserved communities, electric vehicles? Because charging is great, but also they need cars they can charge. And I know I think you guys were once looking at a ride share program or something like that. But
Yeah, so with the Clean Cars for All program, that is a way where people can trade in their vehicle to get an electric vehicle. We're definitely looking at other ways that we can provide access, just like having at least ride and drives. A big part of people not adopting the vehicles is they may have never seen one or been in one. And there's also the trust of, is it going to get me to where I need to go? Will I have enough charging access? And so the education and just putting them in the community, making it more normalized, I think is a really important part of increasing adoption in the disadvantaged communities around.
우리 지난번에 위원회 한번 전기 체크하면서 안경 하나 준비해 있었지.
Henry, do you have a question?
그냥 불러놨어요. 필요할 때만 쓰는 거.
All right, mute him.
It's not a Zoom call if somebody forgets to mute themselves.
All right.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to bring Grid Alternatives to their community, they just reach you, or is there anything they need to fill out?
I think that's a good start. We have offices all throughout California. We have one further north, a smaller coastal office all the way down to San Diego and throughout LA, Central Valley, Bay Area even. And then we have an office in Colorado and in Washington, D.C. in the Mid-Atlantic. So if you're in any of those general regions, I can connect you to the office that would be able to bring it to your community. In addition to that, like if you're looking to expand further, I'm happy to open up that conversation. And, we're always open. You never know, because we do need to get to everywhere if we're going to expand access. Yeah.
Well, it's so wonderful to hear that it has spread so far. I had no idea Colorado and Washington, D.C. were on your map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes sense, though.
Yeah, Colorado's got a lot of our community solar projects. So that one's been trickier to deploy in California, but Colorado's just knocking them out.
Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? And Eugene Lee, thank you very much for the information you've been putting up there. Nice to have you with us this morning.
You're certainly welcome. And just wanted to spread the word out there. There is activity in the low-income multifamily development space. And, I encourage people to take a look at this new build program that we're developing right now in conjunction with the PUC. It was created out of Senate Bill 1477, and it's funded from Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund monies. So it's not predicated on general fund monies, which is a good thing. And so it's an opportunity, I think, really to push equity and multifamily housing.
That's very true. And it's great that they made that funding available. Wilson Hago was asked a question. Do you potentially look at doing microgrids in communities, not necessarily just installations on homes, but tying them together in a network way?
Yeah, I know our strategy officer has been looking into other alternatives like microgrids. They are really important for decentralized and more rural communities to have access to power. And so these are things I think we're looking at to do with partners initially. Just being a nonprofit, we usually don't have all of the capacity and resources to launch these bigger programs on our own, but we're very interested in them and looking to expand that way. So if we find the right partnership to do piloting, that's when usually we can expand to taking on our own programs.
Great. Well, glad that you're looking at that, and there are a number of people that would be willing to help. We're running a little late on time, Thomas, so we turn it back to you to do a wrap up.
All right, let's wrap it up. First, thank you everyone for coming. Wanted to make sure that you check out our next upcoming to-dos with Meg Arnold and Judah Notley, along with checking out the grants for startups and our partners on it. I want to thank our program sponsors for sponsoring our overall program. And again, thank you all for coming. I'm going to drop the Google Doc into the chat again so people can go, because everything in there we've made sure to try to link so that you can find out more information. And this presentation will be available later on. You can check on our YouTube channel. It will be there, and it will be also eventually posted to our website under videos.
Great. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Arianna, and thanks everybody else for joining. We had a good turnout this morning. Great discussion. So thank you very much. Virtual applause for such a great presentation. And we'll hope to see everybody back on our next to-do next week. So thanks very much.
Tuesday morning, 9 a.m.
Thank you
All
everyone
right.
for coming. Feel free to reach out.